Okay. Usually it says the recording in progress, but I guess it's not doing that
Mhm.
today.
I heard it.
Oh, it did. Okay, okay. Hi, Miss
Hmm.
Lichtenbach. Thank you for joining me today and taking the
Hi there.
day. Thank you for taking the time to come do this with me today.
Of course.
Can you tell me a little bit about your counseling background?
Sure. I am a QMHP, which stands for Qualified Mental Health Professional. I work as a crisis counselor at Psychiatric Emergency Services
In Austin, right?
in Austin, Texas.
Nice. Okay.
Mhm.
So today I'm going to give you the breakdown of the Townsend model, which is what I am currently in school for my master's program. And
Lovely.
it's just going to be a short overview of the breakdown of it all. So it's not going to take up too much of your time.
Take all the time you need.
We're
I'm
just going to,
excited to learn.
thank you. We're just going to dive right into it. So essentially, the Townsend model integrates the core ideas of the psychodynamic theory, such as attachment, transference, internal relational structures, and the Christian theology. So it
That's a
offers
lot.
different models of growth and healing that addresses kind of the psychological and the spiritual dimensions of the person. So it comes
Wow,
at it
okay.
in multiple avenues instead of just one approach.
Okay.
So for the essential psychodynamic part of it, the theory draws from the psychodynamic version, and it's that people develop and relate together, and that
Mm-hmm.
emotional and relational growth occurs through connection, and that the
Mm-hmm.
early relationships you have, it's either beneficial or detrimental. So it's
Mm-hmm.
depending on how it is established. If you have those good connections and you're able to build that trust with a caregiver or
Mm-hmm.
build the capacity to have that relationship with somebody, you're setting a good foundation
Okay,
for
so it's
the
like the
next.
building blocks for your adulthood relationships.
Yes.
Nice.
And the issue comes in is that when those attachments are broken or inconsistent, then individuals internalize shame or
Mm-hmm.
fear and they become distorted views of themselves or others, and that creates blocks of healthy developments. So the Townsend model takes that psychodynamic theory and they use it for object relations as well. And they use that to assume that people develop within the context of relationships. So you're going to hear
Mm-hmm.
relationships as a really big part of the Townsend model. So
Okay.
not just the psychodynamic part, but when we get to the the theology part as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
You're
When
good.
we get to the theology part as well, relationships is basically the grounding factor of the model.
So relationships affect not only relationships, but every aspect of everyone's lives?
Yes, they
Okay.
yeah, the relationship from birth to death is that
Okay.
the Townsend model views people as relational beings and that
Mm-hmm.
we're not meant to be alone, that
Okay.
we are meant to do life with others.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, it's so like when we go into the object relations, is that our early relational templates shape how we connect and trust. So there's like
Mm-hmm.
that psychodynamic, and that protects ourselves into adulthood. So when it comes to internalizing and replacing these, if there are any maladaptive issues, then
Mm-hmm.
that's where the counselor finds that object of it. Sorry if you can hear my dog. Um,
You're fine.
Finding that issue and kind of relating it back. So where they were missing out on, and that's where they go to the object relations. And
Okay.
then the next step is, I'm sure you're pretty familiar with this one, is the transference and the counter transference of a counselor and a client.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
The client will kind of replay old like relational dynamics to the counselor,
Mm-hmm. Like project
and
it.
yeah, like the projection and like the unmet needs and fears. And the counselors has to be aware of that transference and counter transference on how to not only kind of protect that themselves and the client, but
Mm-hmm.
also to identify where the client needs that repair and where the counselor
Right.
can self reflect on, oh, like this is triggering me and it's triggering
Mm-hmm.
them. So maybe they need to be able to take that step and move them to another counselor, or it gives them as a counselor the time to self reflect and that helps them grow so they
Mm-hmm.
can remember that.
Establish those boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next theory that they go off of for the psychodynamic foundations is the theory of psychopathology, which is from the psychodynamic standpoint. Pathology arises when normal development needs are like such as attachment, um, separation, integration, and adulthood, which we're going to touch on that more down the line because that's a huge part of the Townsend model as well. Are
Mm-hmm.
So this will result in arrested development or distorted kind of coping patterns. And in the Townsend model, these are viewed as like being stuck. So
Mm-hmm.
like you can't progress. So if you're stuck in attachment, you're not progressing to being able to separate. When you're not going to integration,
Mm-hmm.
you can't flourish into adulthood. So you're stuck there until you learn how to meet those healthy boundaries and learn how to develop healthy attachments and healthy separation.
Mm. So
Which
would this be the source of like codependency in adulthood?
so it can be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to touch more on those when we get to the kind of the overview of the theory of developments that we're going to touch on in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it'll make more sense. But
Awesome.
and then for the psychodynamic part, this like ties all of it back into the therapeutic relationship and how that becomes the central means of change. And so by
Mm-hmm.
tying in the psychodynamic and learning not just not just a diagnosis, but the root of the problem and
Mm.
kind of taking the steps and teaching the client the therapeutic relationship where the client can grow and they can take the time and the grace and the truth to combine and restore everything that they need to promote emotional wholeness is the point of the psychodynamic part of the Townsend
Mm.
model. So that leads us into the Christian theological part of the model, which is the Townsend model is deeply rooted in Christian theology. They are what they very much stand on is that they incorporate the biblical truths and the belief that people are made in the image of God and that God made people to be connected to others. So not just connected to God,
Mm.
that
Mm-hmm.
he made them to have relationships with others, that he is not just the source. He's one thing, but he needs, that's why he created other people. That's why he
Mm-hmm.
created
Be fruitful
soulmates.
and multiply.
Yeah. That's why he created soulmates and friends and those like all of these extenuating connections so people can feel whole in different avenues of life. And that helps with different capacities and kind of incorporating that for not just viewing people in a clinical lens
Mm-hmm.
and viewing people kind of outside of that clinical lens and viewing them as people, kind of remembering that, hey, they are still human beings that still need grace. They still need time and they still need the truth to have structure and provide that time and space for them to heal. They need all of this. And what they believe that that comes from mirroring the gospel and incorporating that with the psychodynamic development. And that's where like this wholeness comes in
Mm.
of this Townsend model treatment. And that's where they work really well together to help people. So it's not just this one point avenue where people are like, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen it where people just come in, they've checked the box and you go. The whole point is that you teach the client how to come in, learn. You don't give them the answers, you teach them how to find their own answers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily preaching to them, it's just reminding the counselor that, hey, like this is a human being sitting in front of you and they're coming to you for help.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that they need help, they need the time, they need you to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's, but then they also need you to use your knowledge as a counselor to figure out, hey, you're lacking maybe in these developmental areas, which is where we get into the overview of the model, which, do you have any questions so far? I know I'm talking very
Yeah.
fast.
He really checkmarked all the boxes in this theory, huh?
Yeah, he really has. He's been doing this
Well,
for,
I like that it's all encompassing, as you said, where it's holistic.
yes. Yeah, it definitely
Mm-hmm.
is holistic. And I like that I don't know, it just encompasses the person
Mm-hmm. A
and
person
not,
centered.
yeah, and not the diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is where we go into the theory of development and like the four character structures that he kind of created. And there's attachment,
Mm-hmm.
separation, integration, and adulthood. So attachment is the ability to build trust, safety, and connection.
Okay.
So that's like your childhood pretty much. Like were you in a safe environment? Were you able to go to your caregiver for those things? And if not, then you have the beginning of
We
issues.
got some problems. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's separation. So are you able to develop as an individual? Are you able to have autonomy? Are you able to have these boundaries as a person and still work with others? And you're not just cutting everybody off.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's integration. So integration is taking the good and the bad together. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not just an all or nothing type of thing. It's like love and pain. It's the strengths and the weaknesses of everybody, not just yourself, but everybody around you. And just being like, okay, like I can work with this. It might suck for a second, but I can work with this. But if you
Yeah.
can't, then that's where another relational impact comes in is that it's an all or nothing thing. It's like you're either completely evil or you're perfect. And then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of see where that separation goes in. And then adulthood is obviously the responsibility and the competence part. And that's where like the maturity comes in. And this is also one where you can kind of give and receive and you can take ownership of your choices. But we're on the other hand, on the other end of that, it can also be you have a problem with authority or you can shut down when authority comes at you. So
Mm.
there's like the black and the white of all of these. So that's where it comes in on the theory of development and these issues of like wanting to break it down as simple as that these stages are not just childhood and teenage years. Like you can develop these as adults and these are something that you can work on when you get older
Mm-hmm.
and that they can change. And so that's where he came in with that. And that these structures can be caused from neglect or trauma and they can be underdeveloped from childhood or overdeveloped and that can cause problems. So the inconsistency and the relational and emotional regulation of all of this stuff can cause these developmental delays, which
Mm-hmm.
is where as the Townsend model counselor comes in and is like, we're going to work on either each developmental level and we're going
Mm-hmm.
to help you grow. And it's facilitating this growth, but it's not, hey, like you have a problem with authority, do better. It's, hey, what happened here to make you have this, you know, where did this go wrong? Where,
Mm-hmm.
why do you think you have this issue? So you start to like delve a little deeper into the person so they start to wonder about it. And it's just connecting with the person and remembering that as a whole, that you come to them as a whole counselor, that you are a
Mm-hmm.
human who has this understanding of the counseling model and the information you have on that world, but also the spiritual model of doing good and wanting to take care of those in front of you and those
Right.
who are
Mm-hmm.
willing to take the time out of their day and to be in a be in the bottom of their life to sit in front of you and
Mm-hmm.
doing everything in your power to take care of them and just kind of working at those levels with them. So
Like that.
that is what
So,
I'm doing with the Townsend model.
wow, you explained that really well, first of all.
Thank you. I think it was a little
And I
fast.
understand it. So it's like a foundational, it's like the foundation in practicing counseling, essentially. Like where had he covered like not just the actual theory, but like how to approach your practice, essentially.
Yes. So,
Okay, with acknowledgement of um like the humanistic values,
mhm.
and making sure to instill these like in your practice.
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
like, okay, so, okay.
yeah,
That is fascinating. I
yeah,
didn't
it's
know that like the Townsend theory was that um intricate. That's news to me.
yeah, it just really pushes that transformation is a relational concern. That this is life is
Mm-hmm.
not meant to be done alone,
Mm-hmm.
and that even as a counselor, like you're not supposed to do this alone, and that you're supposed to keep learning, and so your clients learn too. So
Mm-hmm. It
it's
keeps you
just
humble in your
yeah,
practice.
yeah, but it also
And
helps the
mm-hmm.
clients just grow into who they're meant to be. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes from I don't know the way that kind of the world views like the counseling world right now is that it's like give them a diagnosis, give them their medicine, and send them on their
Mm-hmm.
way.
It's very sterile.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
this way, I think it kind of brings it back to the roots of like, hey, why are we having these issues? Where did it come
Mm-hmm.
from? So it's just kind of reminding people that they're still people,
Mm-hmm.
they're still humans. Like, don't forget that. Like, it's not just a diagnosis. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really like
Wow.
it's just something to help people grow and not just hide behind a diagnosis. Really.
Mm-hmm. And I always like whenever I work with clients too, and they're kind of and they're getting tunnel vision with their diagnosis, and
Mm-hmm.
they fear the inevitable, like they'll never find joy in life because of this diagnosis, or this diagnosis will hinder them basically from living up to their full potential. I'm just like, no, and like first of all, diagnoses, like you mentioned, when it comes to counselors, researchers, psychologists, like they're constantly growing too,
Yeah.
and research is constantly developing. Diagnoses change, and some diagnoses even are can be considered in remission, et cetera, et cetera. You know, one clinician might disagree with that diagnosis and see a more appropriate diagnosis. Like, and what I like to hone in on is just steer away from the diagnosis and refocus on who you are as a human being. And not only that, but the symptoms that are bothersome to you. Like what the symptoms of that diagnosis are actually bothersome, you know, and treat those instead. So absolutely. See the whole picture. Townsend model seems it sees the whole picture of this all. Like what's you know, and the point of this all too is to grow and help each other grow. Very
Yes.
wholesome.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for your time. I'm going to stop the recording in just a second.
All right. Thank you. It
Thank
was lovely meeting you.
you. You too.